Happy Women's History Month, everyone, and welcome to my review of the 2011 comedy Bridesmaids, part of my Throwback Thursday series where my subscribers vote on films that I've never seen before for me to give a review. If you want to be part of the fun, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you can vote on my next review. Let's get into the premise. Annie is a single woman whose life is a mess, but when she learns that her lifelong best friend Lillian is engaged and she has no choice but to serve as maid of honor. Though lovelorn and almost penniless, Annie nevertheless winds her way through the strange and expensive rituals associated with her job as the bride's go-to gal. Determined to make things perfect, she gamely leads Lillian and the other bridesmaids down the rough road to the wedding. Let's start off with the good. So Bridesmaids, right off the bat, I gotta say, is full of heart, fun, and relatable characters. It's feel like real women that I know in real life, but just turned up for a little bit of comedic effect. Obviously, they're using stereotypes here, but the characters feel so real with a little bit more depth than just a stereotype. And the actors are so great because they're so funny and the comedic timing is so good that they take that stereotype above and beyond. The comedy in this movie ranges from self-deprecation to slapstick to like real meaningful thoughtful stuff when they have deeper conversations. Just even little moments that you might not even recognize may make you chuckle a little bit, and even they're going on to the next gag and you're still thinking about what that was. I could just think about how watching this in the theater was. People laughing out loud real hard, where the fact that you don't even catch certain lines because of how funny the movie is. And this all depends on Kristen Wiig's performance, who is absolutely fantastic as Annie, our central character here, who is continuously hitting rock bottom in this film over and over and over. Her passion is to bake and her bakery is closed down. Her love interest is a uncommittal douchebag played by John Hamm, who is also hilarious and does a great job in the role. She has two roommates who are some like English, British, weird, bizarre twins, and they creep me out so much, but was so hilarious. And now she's also working a dead-end job at a jewelry store as a sales clerk. You can tell how bad that sounds as a job to do, going from owning your own business down to that. And the cherry on top of all that is that she's seeing her best friend, who's played by Maya Rudolph. The character name is Lillian, is getting married, achieving all her goals, and being very happy and moving forward and feeling like leaving her behind. And even though you may be so happy for your closest friends for their success, there always will be some resentment when you're not in that same position, or you're even further behind than you want to be. And I think that is very relatable, especially for me at this age now. I'm kind of going through some of the same things that the character Annie was, so I've related to her immediately. I think that Kristen Wiig did all the nuance of that, playing that type of character, going through that really, really well. She emotes like a mother flipper. And on top of all that as well, Lillian has another best friend that she hasn't known for that long named Helen, played by the fantastic Rose Byrne. I've never seen her be this funny or play a character like this. She usually plays like characters a little bit more meek, and she was just really upfront. She was arrogant, she was controlling, and she looks like she was trying to poach Lillian from Annie. She was the exact opposite of Annie. She had money, she had success. She was showering Lillian with so much glamour, and it was something that Annie could not afford. She barely could pay her bills. She barely could afford to stay in that apartment she had with these weird twins, or fix her car or something like that. So for her, it just felt like she was just falling short in every aspect of her life. And she was really going at it with Helen's character, because Helen, which was a great in this movie, the way they use that character where you just think she's some stuck up rich piece of crap, is that you find out that she's very lonely and she really wants a friend really bad, and that's why she's trying to get Lillian so bad from Annie. This immediately puts them at odds, being very competitive, trying to get Lillian's attention and make sure that they're the ones that is the maid of honor and the more loved best friend, which leads to multiple hilarious moments throughout the movie, as that is a driving growing tension as Annie is just devolving more and more, and Helen is becoming more backstabbing and more scheming as the movie goes along. Like the moment where they're at the recital and Annie and Helen are going back and forth, talking about how much they love Lillian and singing and trying to upstage each other. It went on for a while and it was really awkward, but it was really, really funny. And then they went to this dress fitting, and that scene was really funny because obviously Helen has money and she's trying to get the most expensive bridesmaid's dress here, and Annie's trying to find something that's nice looking but cheap because she ain't got no money. And that scene was just so hilarious because they just ate at some hole in the wall restaurant, and then they got the bubble guts and they all started like throwing up and pooping everywhere. And it was just done in a way that usually those type of scenes are kind of like corny or like just disgusting, but it was just so funny. The build up to the moment was great. How they slowly just see them start sweating and getting like sicker looking, and then when they just all explode, I was dying from laughter. Oh my god. And on top of that, Annie not wanting to show that she was the reason why this happened, holding it in till she got away from Helen's sight, just was the cherry on top. That scene was hilarious. And it was just moments after moment after moment in this film. Big set pieces of gags and comedic moments, but also a lot of small ones as well. And Kristen Wiig obviously was a standout in many of the scenes, especially a plane scene where she's in like coach and the rest of them are in first class, and she keeps trying to sneak her way up there because she's trying to like get Lillian's attention while Helen is sitting next to her, and Helen is like sabotaging her. All that was really great. But the biggest standout in a lot of these scenes and stole a lot of the scenes is the godlike performance by Melissa McCarthy. Her character was so funny. She played the stereotypical fat friend, but she was so funny and so confident and leaned into it so much. It made it not feel like an insulting thing like how it used to feel in like a lot of comedy movies back in the day where they made the fat friend wasn't in on the joke, they were the joke. She was in on the joke. She was making fun of herself. She was making fun of everybody else. She felt confident in her skin, and that led to a great emotional moment where she had a talk with Annie's character, who was really down in the dumps. This is at the point of the film where Annie and Lillian are at odds. Annie's not even in the wedding anymore. It looks like they're not going to be friends anymore. Melissa McCarthy's character is just like, look, I'm one of your best friends as well, and this is on you. All these bad things that you're blaming on everybody else, this is on you. And she's just explaining like her past and all that stuff that Melissa McCarthy did, like going from this silly character who's pooping in the sink to having that really deep conversation with Annie. I thought was fantastic, and I really enjoyed it. It felt like she was talking to me. Honestly, a lot of the stuff she was saying, I was like, it's like, oh man, this is so good. And the rest of the supporting cast were really great as well. Crystal Dowd played a cop who was another love interest for Annie, one that you could tell was much better than the one John Hamm was playing. And he brought a lot of the rom-com shenanigans in here, because obviously this is like a bridesmaids film and a lot of it's about the wedding, but there's some rom-com stuff going on. You know, she starts falling for him, and then he does something that kind of takes her off and she runs away. All that stuff is there, but because it's not the crux of the film and it's not the only thing going on, it's still just fairly entertaining, even though it feels really familiar. And Crystal Dowd was really great. He just played this really sensitive, nice guy who wasn't a pushover, which is a lot of times what happens. They're pushovers. He stood his ground. He stood on his 2 feet and called her out when she was doing certain things. And I really like the portrayal here. I like that this is a movie centered around women, and most of the cast is women, and all the major characters are women. But there were some really good males in the film that were funny and different representations. Like obviously John Hamm was one of the antagonists and he was a douchebag, but then we had Crystal Dowd's character who was just a lovely character, and then we had another character that was just really like a pervert and funny as well. It was great to have those characters in a film where a lot of these kind of female comedies recently would just have like terrible representation for men and no positive images, or not them being in on the joke, just being like a wet towel and everything, but they were in on the joke. They were part of it, and it felt really great because it felt like everyone, if you're man, woman, in between, could have someone to relate to. Wendy Covey was hilarious in this film as Rita. She was a tired mom and a jaded wife who just wanted to go have fun and be free from the monotonous relationship she was in and her outrageous kids. All the stories she was telling about how rude her kids were, how her husband's not doing things anymore, and some of the slick things she said was really fun. And on the opposite of that was Ellie Kemper, who played Becca, who was having these conversations with her. She is very inexperienced in life and relationships and sex, and that juxtaposition of those two characters where like Becca is where Rita was, and Rita's trying to warn her now, like, this is where your relationship is going to go if you continue going that path, especially since you have no experience. I thought that was really cool too, because not only was it funny, it kind of had like a message there. I think the main cast and supporting cast just create these great big and small moments that make you either smile and chuckle or laugh and hold your belly, while also creating really emotional, great life lesson moments about self-sabotaging, self-deprecation, the hardships and the highs and lows of friendship, and how like things can start feeling like it's changing, you're drifting apart. Something that's super relatable to me as I enter, I'm in my young early 30s. Like, that stuff is really happening. People you think that's going to be in your life forever is not in your life anymore. I can super relate to that. Or like friends that you thought were like super close, you hung out all the time, now are getting other friends or like moving on with their adult life, so you don't connect as much. I think that they dwelled enough in that and had those conversations enough where you can get those lessons while entertaining you, having comedy, and just having a really feel good film. Now let's talk about the bad. So the only negative I have for this film is that some of the comedic bits felt like they went on for a little too long. Like it was like maybe 5 minutes too long in each section. Even though it was funny, it's like the laws of diminishing return. If you keep going back to that well too much, especially in the same moment, it's not going to be as funny or as entertaining, or you're going to feel the length of the gag going on, and it almost feels like a skit at some points. And it never gets there, but it almost feels like it. And there's a lot of SNL actors, so they have experience doing skits. I really felt that when Annie was trying to get her love interest, the cop name, his name was Rhodes, attention by driving us around recklessly so he can help her, and he wasn't paying attention, and it just kept getting more ridiculous, and just lasting longer and longer. And I was like, okay, let's get along. I know what's going to go here. That was like the only time I really felt that, but it made me reflect back on like, oh yeah, a lot of those comedic bits did last just a little too long. Now let's get into my verdict. So when I put this film on the poll in my community tab for my subscribers to vote for me to review, and for Throwback Thursday, I gave 5 choices. This was the choice that I was hoping that they didn't pick, but I just wanted to have a comedy as one of the choices. And when I saw that it won, I was like, oh no, I really don't want to watch this movie. I don't think I'm in the mood for it. And I'm so glad you guys voted for it. I'm glad that it won, because not only was I going in with low expectations and I was blown away by how great the movie is, I think it's a must watch if you're someone that loves rom-coms and bromance movies. Obviously, it's not guys, but there's no word for bromance for girls, not that I know. Let me know in the comments below if you know any word for bromance for girls. I just really enjoyed. I couldn't believe how good I thought this was. This is one of my all-time favorite comedies now. That's how good this film is to me. So with that said, I'm going to give it an A. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you rate Bridesmaids? Let me know in the comments below your favorite moments, your least favorite moments, your favorite characters, and how you would rate this film if you've seen it. And if you've never seen Bridesmaids and you're watching my review, does my review make you want to go check it out now? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you like my reviews. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified my reviews, reactions, ranking lists, live discussions, and more. You can watch more of my content right now.